Hey everybody, you joined me in my garage for a little different kind of video today. In fact, we're going to be looking at the other side of EV life, which is not so much the vehicles out here, but the other important part is charging those vehicles. And we're going to start here, and that is a NEMA 1450 outlet. When we got our first EV, we had a Polestar 2 and just plug a mobile charger into the NEMA 1450 and away we went. Eventually got an EVSE, a juice box, and software there was discontinued and frankly wasn't the greatest thing anyway. And then migrated on to a Tesla universal wall charger. And I love this, probably topic for a separate video, because if you've got a CCS vehicle or J1772 vehicle specifically, because we're not talking about level 3 charging like this Rivian R1S here, you can just reach in here. Well, it's unplugged, but you pop out and I get the adapter to plug straight in J1772, or I press the button here on top of the handle and I'll get my NACS or Tesla charger, which works for both the Y and Cybertruck, obviously. But what I want to talk about today is a very interesting piece of technology. So as you see in the driveway, you've got 3 EVs, which means we need to charge 3 EVs, and certainly juggling one plug in our NEMA 1450 across 3 EVs isn't a lot of fun. Even juggling it across 2 EVs isn't a lot of fun. So I have this one NEMA 1450 outlet, which is on a sub panel in my garage, and 60 amp sub panel, and I'm capped at a 40 amp breaker, so I can pull 32 amps out of this socket, which is plenty for any of the vehicles we've got. What I didn't want to have to do is keep juggling plugs back and forth. I want to be able to plug in 2 vehicles at night. Usually one's parked in the garage, and it's a little bit of a mess right now. I'm kind of working on this lawnmower, replacing batteries, but plug one in the garage, plug one out front, and just stick with the one outlet because I can't add things to my sub panel. I was looking around for products that would allow me to do that, and what I found was this Lectron NEMA 1450 splitter, and that's what we want to talk about today. So this is an amazing little box. Is what it basically does is it takes the one outlet that you've got here on the wall and turns it into 2, with the additional safety feature of having an additional breaker on the side. And what it basically does is it juggles the power. I'm just going to plug this in here while we're talking. It juggles the power to cycle on either the one charger or the other charger for the purposes of charging. So you'll see they both do light up as this power's on, and that's good. And it'll test and see if there's a load on one or the other or both. And it's got it set up as kind of primary and secondary. So the plug on this side is your secondary, the plug on the left is the primary. So if you're pulling a load from both at the same time, it'll just activate the primary. So this blue circle turns into a green circle when I'm charging, and it'll just power up the one universal wall charger. And then if I'm pulling a load from number 2, same thing, this green circle will light up, and you'll see over here in the display, usually just the first is energized. But if I'm pulling from the second, that'll be energized, and then this will be active to charge. So I've got 2 of my EVs out here for scheduled charging. The Rivian R1S starts charging at the beginning of my off-peak window. I've got about a 10-hour window every night where I can charge off-peak. And then the Cybertruck, due to its better charging logic and preconditioning logic, actually starts from near the end of my charging window and calculates backwards how many hours or minutes it needs to charge from until the end of the window. So that starts at the beginning of my charging window, that's at the end. Neither of them are really charging 5-6 hours a night. Typically it's within an hour or 2 depending on how much I've driven. So they never pull at the same time. In this Lectron NEMA 1450 splitter makes sure that they don't. But as soon as one's active, like I said, one load will light up, and what it'll do is it'll make sure that this one side is energized, this side will not be energized at the same time. and you'll be able to see here the voltage and amperage being fed directly out of the splitter if you want to keep track of it. In this display, you can turn on and off with this button if you want. I just turned it on for the purposes of recording this video. And as I mentioned, the nice safety feature that it's got, which I like, is that it has its own built-in breaker here on the side. And you flip this off and you'll see. So if there is excess draw on the box, certainly you've got your panel sitting behind this, but I like the fact that it's got its own built-in breaker that'll trip first if there's excess draw. So it's like an extra layer of safety from a charging perspective. And so what we've got is our 2 Tesla universal wall chargers. And what I end up doing is plugging one into the Rivian every night, one into the Cybertruck every night, and then in the morning, both of them are charged. And I don't know, no muss, no fuss. And all I had to do is pick up an extra universal wall charger. Didn't have to pay an electrician for the installation. It's actually pretty straightforward. All I had to do was, well, find a stud to anchor into, which is right here on the wall. Kind of put a couple of screws in for the back plate, mount this in, and then there's some screws on the side that go into screw the front to the back, and that's it. Then just plug it in and get going. So if you're looking for an easy way to charge multiple EVs and you've already got something like this, like a NEMA 1450 outlet in your garage or wherever you're charging, or let's say you've even got one charger that's been hardwired and you're trying to figure out a better way to manage charging rather than plug juggling, which like I said, I tried it for a little bit but couldn't stand it. You could always get your one line that you've got coming in converted into a NEMA 1450 outlet. And then I'd strongly recommend something like this Lectron NEMA 1450 splitter. I've been running it for about 4 or 5 months now. No issues at all. I've never tripped the breaker on it. But what I have noticed is that occasionally one of these Tesla universal wall chargers, if you got to draw on one side, that the other side may indicate red. So what I should note is while one side is charging, there is still a small amount of power flowing to the other one to keep it basically alive, right? So if it needs to ping out or connect via Wi-Fi or do whatever it needs to do, it still has enough power to run. So you can't get the full pull out of the plug here if you were pulling 40 amps, or in my case 32 amps, at 240 volts that you normally would. There's a small amount of current feeds into whichever one is quote unquote inactive at the time a charging session is active on the other one. But you may end up typically get about 7.2 kilowatts instead of, let's say, 7.4 kilowatts. It's not a noticeable difference, and it makes no difference at all in terms of charging times for my vehicle. So again, that's the Lectron NEMA 1450 splitter. I'd say if you've got NEMA 1450 outlet in your garage and you're looking for a way to get some more reach, some more leverage without making your life difficult, strongly recommend testing out a setup like this with this NEMA 1450 splitter from Lectron. I like it a lot. The universal wall chargers are a whole separate story, but as I mentioned, for the Rivian, I can just pull the button. I've got my J1772 adapter built in. And then certainly to charge the Tesla, I just press the button on the Tesla handle and I've got my NACS connector. So super simple. We can talk about those at another time, but highly recommend this Lectron NEMA 1450 splitter. As always, consult with your electrician. Make sure you're within code, and happy charging. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.